Thank you and welcome back. Mike, welcome back with us. And I should mention that we are not only live on speedsport.com, but also on Speedsport 1, channel 2, as well as on racer.com, on YouTube, different channels from EPARTRADE, Racer, and Speedsport, as well as on our social media channel, LinkedIn, Facebook. But thank you for being with us again, Mike. We had a very busy day since our opening session.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for having me back. And I'm really looking forward to our next session.
Brian Carter is with us, another gentleman who has been a founding member of their first inaugural Race Industry Week. So thank you, Brian, for being with us 4 years in a row, and great honor to have you on.
My pleasure. Thank you for having us.
All right, let's go. For those who don't know, Brian is the CEO and COO of the World Racing Group, which is responsible for many of the country's great dirt track series, World of Outlaws, Late Models, World of Outlaws, Sprint Cars, Super Dirt Car Series, and Extreme Midgets, among several others. Brian, welcome, and let's take a look back at this past year a little bit before we move forward and talk about what's coming down the line for World Racing Group and all of your properties. What is your takeaway from this past season that just wrapped up a few weeks ago here in Charlotte?
Well, it was highlighted by a typical Mother Nature had her hand in a few things. We had a new champion on the late models. It's got a great group of drivers and tracks and events, and it was a great year. It's an expensive year for everybody. Seems like the cost infrastructure and everything is up. So that's pretty normal trend for us. It seems like things are getting more and more expensive to do what we're trying to do, but we're trying to do a lot of stuff too. So it's an amazing awareness campaign. The previous panelists talked about community, and it's really about growing our racing community and reaching as many people as possible, so we can encourage them to come out and be a part of the racing family in our community. So whether that be by a weekly track or a national touring series, or even if it's online through one of our social media outlets or through YouTube or Dirt Vision, it's really about creating that awareness and community and encourages as many people as possible to be a part of it. So it was a good year on that front. Again, normal struggles with everything. You've got people, persons, and monies, and trucks and trailers, and all sorts of stuff. But from a racing year, it was it was another good year for the World Racing Group, World of Outlaws, and Dirt Car. And ups and downs. It's hard to generalize any part of our sport. There are ebbs and flows as it goes, depending on your geography, depending on the class of cars. But it's 2023 was not unusual in that way. It was just another great year for us.
Where did you see the biggest growth during the 2023 season?
And we had, the good thing for us is where we are, in our 46th, we're actually preparing for our 50th anniversary of the World of Outlaws, and the 51st. We're not going to see these massive growth spurts. We're in them in a very steady growth path. So for me, it's to maintain that steady growth. We want the big, noticeable growth here and there. But when you have record crowds at Eldora, the largest crowd ever for the Kings Royals, you've got record crowds everywhere with the World of Outlaw sprint cars, and new markets for the World of Outlaw late models, and the growth of the Extreme Midget series. And you see that, it's going to be this nice steady growth. But for us, we've set a lot of records, and that's nice to feel that the result of a steady growth, as opposed to a flash in the pan somewhere, something big splash that's not sustainable. We're trying to create a sustainable business model, and having quite success with it through our own awareness campaigns, either through the television with our partnership with CBS Sports, or through our own broadcasting network on Dirt Vision. So the awareness right now is as high as it's ever been for dirt track racing.
You mentioned the Extreme Midget series, and where exactly does that fit in with everything that you guys are doing? And I must say, great racing and a really good season this past season.
Yeah, and captured by a great champion with
absolutely
Jade. So she's going places. For us, it was actually, we were kind of filling a hole when you look at what we're trying to develop, which is this life cycle of racing. And, when we were growing up, you end up going to the racetrack on Fridays and Saturday nights, every Friday, Saturday night. But that's a little harder for a lot of the families to do now. So we actually started this program with trying to create this life cycle of racing when we created our partnership with Millbridge Speedway here, and trying to figure out how to get the youth and create awareness for the youth about the youth in our sport, and really have created a nice storyline there, and began documenting some of these great racing careers at a very early age. We'll be seeing these guys for a long time. So when you see that happening at a place like Millbridge, just down the street here in North Carolina, you see how much youth energy and excitement there is. It was actually a kind of a gap for us. You can't go from a kart or a micro right to a 410 sprint car. So, and a lot of those guys won't jump to a modified and come up to the stock car classes. So we really were looking at what is the natural evolution of that young racer, and what's the next step. And we thought the market was a little underserved, and stepped in with midget racing and created a nice complementary piece to the industry with the Extreme Midget series. So I'm very happy with the way that was. Got to see some of those races. We're bringing them to the World of Outlaws shows to put them in front of a little larger crowd maybe than they're used to, create some more awareness and exposure. And candidly, it's great racing. There's no doubt about it. The midgets put on a great show, and we got a great champion, and Toyota's behind us. We've got sponsors behind it. It's a neat little program. And again, it was a hole that we saw in the evolution of bringing youth through racing, and it's working right now.
Yeah, I think I certainly held my breath more watching some of those races than anything else I watched during the course of the season. Some really wild moves there, but it does fill a need in that step up the pathway on the ladder system, so to speak, in the dirt track side of the world. You guys definitely have that with, from the stock cars up to modifieds and late models and so on the dirt car side.
Yeah, I know those kids are crazy, and they're not just kids, but and they're consistently, they are, a heck of race car drivers at young ages. And it is, to me, as a more conservative driver, they're insane, but they do it consistently with so much skill. It's fun to watch. But yeah, I hold my breath on that too. It's like, ooh, that's too close, but they do a great job. Sometimes they miss a little, but sometimes they get a little too close, but hey, that's racing too. So it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, it's quite a mixture of skill and fearlessness.
With a few old guys mixed in, it always makes it interesting. So,
we hear a lot in short track racing, and rightly so, a lot of talk about the fan experience. How complicated is that term, fan experience, and what exactly goes into creating a special fan experience?
The fan experience piece is a high priority for us. We want that fan experience to start months before the event, as it relates to how they interact with the ticket buying system, and how they interact with how they're getting ready to come to the show, what they're excited about. And the fan experience is this journey that we try to bring our customers through. And when it starts, even with the renewals for next year, tickets have already gone on sale. So that fan experience is about engagement, and the fan experience is an evolution right now. Everybody's got a shorter attention span. We're all connected by our phones. If we're not communicating with somebody on a daily basis, we start to lose, kind of feels like we're out of touch. So the fan experience is really creating this evolution, or this stream of content, engagement, all those pieces that allow the fan to be part of the community when they can't be at the races. And as much as we move around the country, if we're talking about the World of Outlaws, we may not only be in your community or within reach, maybe 1 or 2 weekends a year. So the rest of that time, we have had to step up our game on how we engage with the fans and the fan experience. But most notably in the last few years, we've taken the fan experience to a different level as it relates to at track experience, and the more traditional version of what the fan experience is when they're at the track. So it's not only that engagement and the content and the creation of the excitement to come to the event, to know who the faces are with who you want to see in the pit area. The open pit area has been a history of the World of Outlaws. We want you to come in, know these drivers, feel the machines, get to know the people in the pit area. But that's just the basis on which all the rest of the fan experience is built on. Now we want you to interact with our staff when you get there. We have our own ticketing trailers and hospitality centers, and trying to create that place for people to see something, recognize a brand, and feel like they're part of something bigger than they normally are when they go to their local track. So we bring, from us, that means experience becomes engagement, engagement becomes community, and how do you engage with the fan? So we have marketing teams that are on the ground in the midway, working with people, with the merchandise trailers are all part of the circus that we bring, and then our own merchandise trailers. So we're all trying to get you up to this larger than life experience at the track, because you can't beat this, the racing at property. You've got to be at property to see it. But there were points when we've seen where some of the other racing organizations create a little more even compelling product for the fans at home. So if your broadcast beats what you can do at the racetrack, you really sort of shooting yourself in the foot trying to get people to come to the racetrack. So we just started making investments in our own traveling video boards, which because most of our tracks can't afford the capital infrastructure to have a replay or to have a face that's 20 feet by 10 feet wide, so that the fans can see who's in this car and what's happening, and then experience it again if we have a chance for a replay. So we started adding in those components so that the fans know that they're part of something bigger and can be entertained even through the downtime, which some of our racing does have. Some of the downtime is engaging them. So the fan experience is in constant evolution right now, and just trying to keep up with what the fans expect. And right now, short attention spans, quick entertainment. They want to be able to see what's happening. They want to see the work area. If it happens to be on a World of Outlaws show, they want to see what's happening in the pit area. They're sitting in the grandstands. And right now, this golden age of technology, everybody can have a television screen in their hand. So we're not only producing one show for the track, but we're producing 2 shows with Dirt Vision. So almost all of our larger shows, you get 2 fully produced TV shows, one at track and one for your phone in your hand, or the people that are at home that are unable to attend. So there's a lot going on any given night to engage that race fan. And that's what we're trying to do better than anybody else right now.
There's nothing like being at the racetrack, no matter what type of racing it is, I don't think. But, you touched on there a little bit, achieving that balance between making things great for those people sitting in the grandstands, but also an engaging product for people who are not able to go. How difficult is it to find that balance and you have to have so many different teams working on both sides and together at the same time?
Yeah, it's a hard balance. I mean, we're blessed that we, for all those years prior to what we know now as streaming, and for us, Dirt Vision, we are trying to adapt our sport to live TV, which is the only way to really create awareness outside of at the racetrack, beyond any, media outlet, or news outlet. So we've actually have the luxury now of adapting live TV to our racing product. And that is quite a luxury to have now and be able to do that. Now it's just adding in all the elements that people expect and want to have at track. One thing I've heard, because not all of our series have a video board with us. We have quite a few of those assets on the ground, but last thing I want to hear is for you those people at home, here's your replay on Dirt Vision. It's like, I want the fans in the grandstands to see the replay too. So we're going to continue to work against that. And I saw one of the chat rooms come in on in-car camera technology that's coming to us. We're actually deassembling some drone stuff and putting drone guts inside of race cars and trying to figure out how to make our own proprietary version of some of our in-car cameras that we can use in a way that would even further increase that fan experience. But it's a hard balance. Nothing replaces the smell of the ethanol and these cars going by you at 100 miles an hour. But you've got to balance it all in. And the last thing we need is a long show because we're waiting on a commercial break or we're waiting on something else. So it's definitely at the track priority and a balancing act every night.
We always talk about how competitive it is on the racetrack in motorsports, but it's also competitive off the racetrack. There are always new series, new racetracks, and different things coming up there competing for the fans, sponsors, and racers' time, and how do you assess all of that?
Well, my goal is to make sure we're the best at it and leading the industry into the future. So as long as we keep doing that, competition makes you hone your decision-making skills in a lot of different ways. So it definitely is with some of the new competitive threats that we have. It's things are a little bit harder on some fronts, and some things are, we've created a really consistent brand message though for the last couple of decades, and that's what we're standing on: the relationship with us and our racetracks, relationship with us and our teams, the ability to make some good, smart decisions for us and all of our partners. Again, competition just makes you hone your decision-making skills and make sure you're best at it and continue to move forward. So it's a new world for us on a couple of fronts. We've been operating in a competitive environment. Everybody has been operating in this racing business in a competitive environment. It's not just competing against racing. We're competing against year-round gymnastics, year-round baseball, year-round soccer, all those things that are getting these kids time and the parents time and all that. So we've been in a competitive environment for a long time. So my job is to be the best that we can be at what we do, be consistent the way we do it, do the right things for the right reason, and keep moving forward. So we've been able to do that. We've got our World of Outlaws sprint car schedule is being printed right now. It's not been published yet or not released yet, but we've got a really good program coming, getting ready for the trade shows that are coming up. So we're getting really close on getting that out to the public and getting all those tickets for sale and all that for next year. So it made things a little bit more complicated because it is a balancing act. There's only a finite number of weekends in the year. There's only a finite number of racetracks we can run at, although we have quite a waiting list for racing, but our races. But just getting it all balanced in, make sure it makes sense for everybody, and then we'll start getting on with the show in 2024.
What do you think, in your opinion, right now is the biggest challenge facing dirt track racing in general?
It's expensive for everybody who's participating. I think that it's hard right now in getting the economics right. For all these years, we managed the resources that have come into the industry have been pretty easy to see come in through ticket sales or sponsorship. And really that's been the only way. Managing it now, we have this wonderful ability to create our own revenue stream through streaming for us. We maintain it ourselves. So the streaming has definitely created another set of resources for us all. But it's also created some challenges in how we're competing for events and how other things are happening. But the biggest challenge is going to be people's time is always the most limited resource, and then allocating resources between the tracks and the series and the racers and trying to maintain a sustainable business model. That's been my entire task for the last 20 years, is how do you create a sustainable business model that balances it enough to make the most sense for everybody. And for us, the world's evolving so quickly. I talked about a sustainable growth and consistent growth, but the evolution to maintain that growth is quite a fast pace. So for us, you can't dilly-dally on decisions, and you got to keep the thing moving and try to anticipate what the race fans want 2-3 years from now. And for me, it's making sure that we don't get blindsided by something that I can't affect and derail it. Right now, my job is make sure we can do this for 25 or 30 or 50 or into the indefinite future. And that's my job in maintaining that for everybody.
Well, history is certainly on your side in that part, with 45 years behind the World of Outlaws already at this point. What are you most looking forward to as you move into the new season? And your new season starts pretty soon.
Yeah, no, we go racing in Volusia this weekend. That's going to conclude our racing in 2023. We go racing in the first weekend in second weekend in January at Volusia too. So I'm looking forward to, we're going to have some new rookies on the racetrack. I know we've got some familiar faces, but not with the late models, with Max McLaughlin coming in. I'm looking forward to interacting with new race fans. We had a tremendous amount of first time at the racetrack race fans in 2023, and that probably excites me the most about 2023, with our awareness and viewership and attendance up high in 2023. I'm excited to meet more of those new race fans in 2024. From the racing perspective, we're not changing rule books. We're not changing procedures. So from us, it's about how we can best portray the stories. We got some really cool content coming out on our drivers and the teams and how they get up and down the road coming in 2024. We've got some really exciting on not only the sprint cars and late models, but the modifieds and midgets to kind of engage the fan with the families that are out on the road with us. And so we've got some things like that are coming in 2024. But I'm just excited about a lot of the same. We have such great racing and such good events, record crowds, good promoters, great racing. I'm just happy with it being the same, and maintaining it and moving it forward where we can, and creating as much awareness as possible. It's there's not a huge amount of like new flashy things, because again, we're in a steady growth mode trying to create this community, and it's 2024 is going to be pretty spectacular on its own.
We've talked a lot about World of Outlaws and the Midgets and late models, your signature series. Let's get closer to the Grassroots a little bit and talk about the dirt car brand and all those dirt car races that are running weekly, racers who are racing weekly all around the country. You're one of them. But, you know, how important are those folks, not only to World Racing Group, but to the entire scope of, you know, the present and the future of dirt motorsports?
Yeah, no, it's critical. It's the backbone of racing. Like I said, I grew up at Heart of Texas Speedway in Waco. It was an IMCA racetrack, and they raced Friday nights. And Kennedale, when I raced in Texas in the Metroplex, and it's a core component. You have to have that local racing community in order to bring a big show to the racing, and they have to maintain their facility, and they have to operate. I mean, we still own Volusia Speedway, so I know how hard it is and how expensive it can be running a weekly racetrack and making all that balance. So we're not managing the sport for the, you know, the upper echelon or the, you know, the premier national series. It's a full on balancing act of, you know, talking to Jacksonville Speedway or to you know, Peoria or Tri-City or Tri-County. I mean, there's so many different places that you have to think about all those things when you make a rule change, or you have a engine certification or seal or a tire change or those pieces. There's a lot of things that go into, you know, that we can affect with our rule book and with our organization, and trying to maintain that consistency. And, you know, change costs money. I know that not only just at the race car level, but for the racetracks and everything. So all those are deeply embedded in my heart when I talk about managing the sport and helping see a sustainable model for everybody, because it's hard. And like I said, I started off with one of my comments was, you can't generalize anything. Some things are going great, and some things are pulling back in different geographies. You've got different political dynamics. You've got different communities that want a racetrack or don't want a racetrack. You've got the movement in some of these classes. I know we've got some very consistent rule books. The classes are thriving. You start moving the rule books around a lot, and you'll fragment a class pretty fast. It can be hard. So but again, that dirt car piece is foundational to everything we build on. And the national series, all of them, whether it be World of Outlaws late model series or the Lucas Oil late model series or any of the sprint car series, are fundamental to having a strong community base for racing. And if you don't, you start to eliminate geographies, which starts to become really hard. And all of it has to be taken into account. So that's a huge part of our balancing act when I talk about balancing it all in for the sport.
Approximately how many dirt car racers and racetracks are there right now?
Just under 200 racetracks, and we'll call it several thousand, near 5 registered. You know, it's a lot of people in our membership database. We had over 400 just compete on the World of Outlaws late models. There's a lot of the racing for us that's not membership, meaning not dirt car, but when you take IMCA into consideration, all of the other WSOTAs and dirt car, there's easily into the tens of thousands of participants out there that are trying to manage racing, and they're all spending the same amount, 100%. They all spending the same amount that they have on racing, and there's a lot of them out there, and we appreciate them all trying to figure out how to do this and enjoy it with their families and friends as long as possible.
You know, a lot of us old guys who've been around for a while remember the World of Outlaws going down the road with a station wagon and a tiny little trailer. How many folks and support vehicles, et cetera, do you have on the road during a July or August of the summer among all the different series?
I lost track at 80. I lost track at 80 pieces of equipment going up and down the road with a generator or something on it. Yeah, no, I remember the days. I actually had a conversation about sitting in the infield with John Pageant and Ted Johnson, and it was in John's old, I think it was one of his old town cars is just sitting there chatting in the middle of the infield watching the Outlaws race, and they don't get to do that very much, but yeah, when we bought the World of Outlaws, there were 7 employees at the time, and we are almost 100 now, and lots of pieces of equipment, lots of great staff. The team got a great team here doing things every day, trying to make the racing better and the events better for everybody. And we're full staff. It's actually busier right now, getting ready for the season, wrapping up the season, getting ready for PRI, just wrapping up a banquet in New York, getting ready for the UMP banquet where there'll be 500 people we'll hand out checks to there. It's nonstop for us, but we love it.
Good timing. I see the gang has chipped in here.
I see.
But thank you, Brian. You run a brilliant series and a brilliant organization, and you guys are true racers, and you're what this industry is all about. So congratulations on building an empire. You pretty much built up an empire. So congratulations, and thank you very much. Please.
Registering on EPARTRADE is easy. To start, click on the Join for Free button on the homepage. First, search your company to see if it's already in our database. If you see your company on the list, click on it to select it. Then, choose Claim Company if you are one of the decision makers, an owner, marketing person, or main company contact. Or choose Join Company if you are an employee, and press Continue. If you couldn't find your company in our database, select Register a New Company. On the following page, fill out your name, email, phone number, job title, and choose a secure password. If you chose Register a New Company, you'll need to choose your business type. Select Supplier if you're looking to display products or services and connect with buyers. Choose Racing Business if you're looking to source new parts and connect with suppliers. Choose Race Team if you own or are a member of a professional race team. Then, enter your company name. Please provide a website, Facebook page, or LinkedIn if you have one, and choose to either claim or join the company. You can view and agree to our terms of use here. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, choose Accept. Finally, click Register Now and your registration will be submitted for approval. An email will be sent to your inbox. Please confirm your email address and you will be approved shortly. Welcome to EPARTRADE.